It all began when a telescope named Pan-STARRS in Hawaii discovered an object passing near the Earth. All of the asteroids or comets that we have seen before are gravitationally bound to the sun, so they come back again and again, just like a ball being tossed up in the air coming back to us. However, there was this peculiar object that doesn't look like a ball coming back to us. It looks like a ball that was thrown at us. And so here we have a visitor that comes for dinner, but by the time we noticed how strange this visitor is, it already left the door into the dark street, and we couldn't really chase it because it moves much too fast. And so the question is, where did it come from and what its nature is? This object was dubbed Oumuamua because it was discovered in Hawaii, and Oumuamua in Hawaiian means scout, a visitor from a distant location that comes to see us for the first time. The simplest approach to find these tourists is to use the sun as a lamppost that illuminates its neighborhood, and as these objects come close to us, we can see the reflected sunlight and by that detect them. After the first week of observations, it became clear that the object changes its brightness by at least a factor of 10 every 8 hours. And that's a very extreme shape than any asteroid or comet that we have seen before coming from the solar system. And the question was, what exactly is it? Is it a comet or an asteroid? Just a piece of rock, very extreme in shape? Or perhaps it's shedding some gas and behaving as a comet. However, there was no cometary tail. And moreover, the Spitzer Space Telescope looked for carbon-based molecules around it and put very tight limits on the existence of gas in the vicinity of the object. And so it became clear that it cannot be a comet. In 2018, there was a paper published in Nature magazine arguing that this object deviated from an orbit that is shaped purely by gravity. And so the lack of a cometary tail, the lack of gases around the object, implied that it must be extremely weird, unlike any comet or asteroid that we have seen in the solar system. At that point, I started wondering, maybe it is of artificial origin, maybe it's not a rock, it's something else. And in fact, I spoke with astronomers that I respect, and they all told me the same, that indeed this object looks very peculiar. Our paper suggested that perhaps the extra push that Oumuamua received during its passage near the Earth was from reflected sunlight, and as a result, it needs to be much thinner than its length. Less than a millimeter thick, with tens of meters in size, sort of like a giant sail. And so if I had to imagine, I would think of it as a very flattened configuration that looks like an umbrella or a sheet floating through space. And the situation is similar to a sail on a sailboat that is being pushed by wind. As air bounces off the sail, the boat is pushed forward. And the same could potentially happen to an object in space if it reflects sunlight. The only possible origin for an object as thin as a millimeter and as large as tens of meters that appeared plausible to me is an artificial origin. About 70 years ago, Enrico Fermi, who was a distinguished physicist, went to lunch with colleagues, and they were discussing the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And at some point in the discussion, Fermi asked, "Where is everybody? If they are out part of the solar system where life may exist, the habitable zone, then one would suspect that perhaps there was an agenda behind its mission. that it went to spy on what is happening in the inner region of the solar system. There is another strange aspect of Oumuamua, and that is that in the frame of the Milky Way galaxy, it's almost staying still, and we, the solar system, are running into it. In that sense, it could be a member of a system, an array of relay stations that transmit information throughout the galaxy, sort of like a cell phone network. Here is an interesting way to think about it. The first time we developed the technology to search for an object like Oumuamua, we saw it. The situation is similar to throwing a fishing line and catching a fish on the first throw. It means that there must be many more fish. If Oumuamua is natural in origin, there should be many more out there that we can find in the future. However, if it turns out that there aren't any more fish, perhaps this was an artificial object sent in our direction with a purpose. Since we ourselves are engaged in developing the technology of light sails, it doesn't appear to me as a speculation to consider the possibility that it was already mastered by another civilization, and so this allowed me to suggest in our paper that perhaps Oumuamua is a light sail. Irrespective of whether Oumuamua is of natural origin or artificial origin, one thing is clear, that its nursery was very different from the solar system, and we will learn something new. Generally speaking, major advances in science are accomplished through discovery of anomalies. These are phenomena that cannot be explained in terms of what we already know. And so the way to approach them is to come up with hypotheses that extend what we know. These are ideas that are not within the same box that we have been thinking about before. And we should entertain those possibilities and rule them out one by one based on additional data or evidence. And the discovery of Oumuamua is an anomaly, in the sense that we discovered an object from a population that we haven't anticipated finding so early in the game. But moreover, this particular object was extremely unusual and unlike anything we have seen in the solar system before. We should leave it on the table, and just like Sherlock Holmes said, when you rule out all possibilities, whatever remains must be the truth. And so we should follow that paradigm in doing science, not having a prejudice, being open-minded, tolerating ideas that are not within the box, within the orthodoxy. And that's an essential part of innovation in scientific inquiry.